Hey everyone, welcome back. You guys have been diving deep into Good Energy by Dr. Calley Means, and this deep dive, it's going to get really interesting. We're going to be talking about this concept she calls bad energy.
Yeah, bad energy.
And how it could be like the root cause of so many health problems.
Well,
We're talking fatigue, brain fog, like you were saying off air, even bigger things.
oh yeah, it can get serious.
And it's interesting how she uses her own life as a case study.
Right?
She connects her childhood, her work as a surgeon, even her mother's health journey, all through this lens of bad energy.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because she really lives this, it's not just some theory to her.
Yeah, and she uses this patient story, Lucy, to kick things off.
Great, Lucy.
So imagine you're 36 like Lucy, dealing with acne, having trouble getting pregnant, and your mood is just constantly low.
Ugh, sounds rough.
And Dr. Means uses Lucy's experience to introduce this idea that all these seemingly separate issues might actually be stemming from this one thing.
Yeah.
Bad energy
Yeah.
at the cellular level.
At the cellular level, that's important to remember. We're not talking about, do you need another cup of coffee? This is about how well your cells are actually functioning, how much energy they can produce.
Right. It's like their ability to do their job.
Exactly. And when that gets messed up, it can impact everything.
So how does she connect this to her own life?
Well, she starts by talking about being a large baby,
Okay.
which sounds kind of random, right?
I was going to say.
But she suggests it could point to metabolic imbalances even way back then.
Wow.
It's like our bodies are programmed from a very early age, and those early influences can have lasting effects on our metabolism.
So our metabolic story starts even before we're born.
Exactly. And then she goes on to talk about how the typical standard American diet, the processed food, sugary drinks, all of that might be contributing to this bad energy phenomenon.
Right, the stuff we all kind of grew up with. It's everywhere you go.
And it's reflected, sadly, in what we're seeing in kids today.
Mm.
Rising rates of childhood obesity, fatty liver disease, even things like mental health challenges. They're all potential consequences of this early exposure to bad energy promoting foods.
So if I'm hearing you right, our childhood diets could be setting us up for health problems down the road.
It's definitely a significant piece of the puzzle.
Wow.
And if this is resonating with you, you're not alone. Dr. Means' story, while it's personal to her, reflects a much broader trend that we're seeing.
Okay, so we've established that bad energy is not good. But what does it actually look like in the body? What's going on beneath the surface?
Dr. Means breaks it down into three main things that start going wrong when we're talking bad energy: mitochondrial dysfunction, oxidative stress, and chronic inflammation.
Okay, those are some big words. Can we take those one at a time? What is going on with the mitochondria?
So picture your cells like tiny factories, okay?
Okay.
And the mitochondria, those are the power plants of the factories, keeping everything running smoothly. When those power plants go offline or they're not running well, that's mitochondrial dysfunction. And then suddenly the whole factory starts to have problems.
So it's not just that we feel tired, it's that our cells are literally low on power.
Mm-hmm.
What about oxidative stress? That sounds kind of like a sci-fi movie.
Right. Well, imagine your cells starting to rust from the inside out.
Okay.
That's a simplified way to think about oxidative stress. It's basically an imbalance in the body where these damaging molecules start to outnumber the good guys that are supposed to keep them in check. And what happens? Damage.
Right.
And that damage contributes to, you guessed it, aging and disease.
So our cells are literally wearing down. Not great. Okay. And then we've got chronic inflammation. Isn't inflammation supposed to be a good thing, like when you sprain your ankle?
You're right. Inflammation is totally normal and important. It's how our body protects and heals itself. But think of it inflammation is like your body's emergency response team. It's great when there's a real crisis, like a cut or an infection. But when that emergency response team is always on high alert, always rushing around dealing with these small problems, it wears the whole system down. That's chronic inflammation. Your body's stuck in overdrive, and it can start to damage tissues and organs over time.
Gotcha. So we've got these three things. Our cellular power plants going offline, our cells kind of rusting from damage, and our body's stuck in this constant state of emergency. I have to imagine that manifests into some noticeable health issues, right?
Absolutely. And Dr. Means connects these dysfunctions to a whole range of conditions, from things like gut problems and infertility to brain fog, chronic pain, even more serious diseases.
Let's dive into some specifics. What does she say about gut issues?
Well, she points out that so many people today, struggle with digestive problems, things like irritable bowel syndrome or IBS.
Right.
But here's the thing. Dr. Means argues that it's not just about what you're eating or not eating.
Okay.
She talks about the gut-brain axis. this really intricate communication pathway between your gut and your brain, and suggests that when your gut is out of balance, dealing with this bad energy, it can directly impact your mood, your mental clarity, even your energy levels.
So it's not just in my head when I feel foggy and irritable after I eat something that upsets my stomach. It's a real thing happening because of that gut-brain connection.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is that Dr. Means also links this bad energy concept to fertility challenges in both men and women.
That's a big one. Infertility is so common, and it feels like we often focus on the reproductive system in isolation. But you're saying our metabolic health, our cellular energy levels could play a role.
That's what Dr. Means is suggesting. And then there's the brain fog piece.
Yeah.
We all have those days where we feel mentally sluggish, right? But Dr. Means suggests that it might not just be stress or lack of sleep. It could also be related to how efficiently our brains are using energy. Remember those mitochondrial power plants?
Yeah.
If they're not working properly, our brains might not be getting the fuel they need to function at their best.
I've definitely had those days where my brain feels like it's running on fumes.
Exactly. And get this, she even connects bad energy to chronic pain. Things like arthritis, joint pain, even those conditions might be influenced by these underlying metabolic factors.
It's like everything is connected. I'm starting to see the pattern here, but this is a lot to take in. What can we actually do about it? Does Dr. Means offer any solutions in the book? So if we've got all these potential problems from bad energy, are we just doomed? Is there anything we can actually do about it?
That's where Dr. Means' message gets really empowering. She's not saying this to scare us. It's more like a wake-up call.
Right.
Because once you understand these connections, you realize you have way more power than you thought to make different choices.
Okay.
Choices that can actually support your body's energy systems and improve your overall health.
So it's not about passively accepting bad energy. It's about taking action.
Yeah.
I like that. But where do we even start? It all seems so big.
She starts with something surprisingly simple awareness.
Yeah, okay.
Don't just brush off those little nagging symptoms,
Like what kinds of things?
The fatigue that just won't quit, the brain fog digestive issues that keep coming back. Dr. Means says those could be your body's early warning signals that something is off on a deeper level.
So it's like our bodies are constantly talking to us, but we've got to pay attention to the whispers before they become shouts.
Exactly. And beyond just awareness, Dr. Means is a huge advocate for the power of lifestyle changes.
Okay.
We're talking about nutrition, sleep, how you manage stress, all those foundational things that we actually have some control over.
So eating real food, getting enough sleep, managing stress.
Yeah.
Those are the real game changers, not some fancy supplement or biohack.
It might not sound as exciting as a quick fix, right?
Right.
But here's the thing. Those lifestyle factors have a huge impact on your metabolic health, which is basically the foundation of good energy.
Gotcha.
Dr. Means gets into the specifics in the book, but it's about working with your body, not against it.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. I feel like if our listeners are anything like me, they're probably feeling inspired to take action. What's the one thing you'd want them to take away from Dr. Means' work, especially if they're just starting to explore these ideas?
I'd say this knowledge is power. The more you understand about how your body works, how what you do every day affects your energy on a cellular level, the better equipped you'll be to make choices that truly support your health and well-being. It's a journey, not a race.
I love that. So to wrap things up, our deep dive into good energy has revealed that this concept of bad energy is more than just a feeling. It's an actual biological process happening in our bodies with very real consequences. But the good news is we're not powerless. By understanding these connections, by listening to our bodies and making conscious choices about how we live, we can start cultivating good energy from the inside out. If you're feeling inspired by this deep dive, we highly recommend checking out Good Energy yourself and exploring Dr. Means' strategies for optimizing your metabolic health. Until next time, stay curious and keep those energy levels high.